How's it going? Welcome back to another great video with your host, The Savior. Today, I'm just going to be talking about something I absolutely love, okay? It took me by surprise, shockingly enough, but Dragon's Dogma 2, I hadn't really touched that game since I did my early coverage of it. And recently I picked it up. I just delved into it because I really wanted to, find a fantasy game to really sink my teeth into. And for the last couple of months, I've been absolutely blown away and just completely addicted to Dragon's Dogma 2. So today I'm going to be giving you my Dragon's Dogma 2 2025 review, looking back at this wonderful gem. And honestly, it's kind of surprising because when I got super invested in this recently, like when I find a game that I really love, I get super addicted to it, and that's pretty much all I can think about for a good while. I'm quite ADHD, I guess, in that regard. Like, I'm easy to swap between different things that I'm interested in, but then when I am interested in something, I go all in. And, I've been like that with YouTube and lots of things in my life. But since replaying it in 2025, I've got to tell you that Dragon's Dogma 2 is just a masterpiece. Now, I understand the criticisms, and I will be talking about that in my Dragon's Dogma 2 2025 review, but I do understand why some people were upset with this game. I don't think it's a perfect game, but not every game has to be perfect.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Oh, look, Arisen. Over there, yonder. A chest. Might I be of assistance? To really immerse you in its world, not every game needs to be, a masterpiece like Baldur's Gate 3. It just has to be fun. And to me, I haven't had this much fun in this kind of sandbox open world action RPG since something like Skyrim. Obviously, it's very different compared to other RPGs. The story is completely just not really worth paying attention to be honest. The sandbox nature of this game is what truly makes it compelling and just amazing to me, to be honest. Like, it's just so cool that random dynamic events can happen constantly in Dragon's Dogma 2, and I think that's why it's such a special game to me. Did you know, Master, that there's only women in your party? Are you a sexist? I do hope you enjoy this video. I will be talking about it from launch to where it is now with all of the updates and how this game has changed and transformed in 2025, because Dragon's Dogma 2 in 2025 is a completely different beast, and I hope to goddamn Jesus, I hope to the Lord Almighty that we do get a good DLC. But I'm just worried at this point because I think Capcom are going to be focusing their attention on the new Monster Hunter game, and I don't think that Dragon's Dogma is going to get any love, which is a shame because I feel like if they added a DLC to this game, that would actually take it to the next level. That would bring back players after the technical bug fixes and all that kind of stuff, and it's a shame that this game just released in such a poor state. So I'm going to get into all of that today, what it was and what it is now.
Man, I'm dead.
I've got to be honest that the AI companions for pawns in this game, they do drive me absolutely insane, but at the same time I haven't had that party experience in a single player game before, and they've just changed the pawns so much that it's absolutely hilarious, and I just love them at this point, but they do say some absolutely inane bullshit. Oh look, Arisen, these herbs can be mixed to make some elixirs. Did you know that, Arisen? Did you know, Arisen? Did you know? And basically, I will answer the question, is Dragon's Dogma 2 worth it? Is Dragon's Dogma 2 worth playing in 2025? Because I really do want to highlight why I love this game and why it might actually interest you if you skipped it on release, or if you were always into it but you never kind of fully committed because of the technical stuff. So let's start off with that, okay? This game released in an absolute buggy mess to begin with, okay? The performance was absolutely terrible. The FPS was all over the place to begin with, and it had a lot of technical jank to it. Like when you go into the cities, NPCs would just spawn in front of you, and the frame rate would just completely tank in populated areas like cities. And this game is quite impressive because it's all fluid, it's all seamless. That's what I mean. You can walk from one end of the map all the way to the other end and basically not see any loading screens pretty much. You can walk straight into the cities. There is no like in between like something like a Bethesda game. So it is pretty impressive. And the fact that it's all randomly dynamic with the sandbox nature and all of the creatures and all the AI. And it is a sandbox game, so all of the creatures randomly will just, do whatever they want. They will just be roaming around the open world. They can even come into the city itself. So I understand that they basically just didn't have time to fine tune it, and that is a shame. I'm pleased to say that the performance now is good, especially if you're playing it on PC. You need a good CPU, but if you have a good CPU, then this game is absolutely fine. And they have bug fixed it, so even on lower end CPUs it's still a pretty good time now. It's not completely buggy, and the frame rate doesn't just drop abysmally. But on consoles, I would say it's really patched up now. It's very fluid. For the most part, it's still not perfect, but it's a lot better compared to release. But they haven't fixed the NPC issue, which is a shame. But to be honest, that's not what the game is all about. The game is about going off and exploring. Exploration in this game is why it's so goddamn amazing. And they have tweaked a lot of the balancing issues. They've added a new difficulty mode. Sadly, not a hardcore difficulty mode, which is what we want. So technically, I think this game is a lot better compared to when it was at launch. And they have added a lot of support for it. So now let's talk about some of the criticisms and address them. This is my own personal perspective on it. Like I said, we all have our own biases. I am biased to this type of fantasy setting, but also I never thought I would really love this game like I would a more story focused RPG, because that's what really interests me, is consequences, morality, philosophical elements. But this is purely just an exploration game. But honestly, I don't think a game does exploration better than Dragon's Dogma 2. I had never felt that feeling of, like a Lord of the Rings type experience traveling from one place to the next, apart from in this game, and that's why I love it so much. So let's address the, criticisms, but remember, it's all subjective, so do please keep that in mind, that just because I might love it doesn't mean that you will, but I'm trying to convince you that it's actually a good game. Now, I hope you're enjoying this Dragon's Dogma 2 2025 review, and if you do, please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you are new to the community, become a wise one today and think for yourself. Don't be like the rest of the tribal dum-dums, okay? We try and analyze video games here and philosophical content. I blend them both together. And I just want you to, keep an open mind, subscribe to the channel, join this fantastic community. I'm so passionate about what I'm creating here. This channel is not fun or nothing without you guys. So sound off in the comments down below, because that's the whole fun of this, is having a conversation with you guys. And like the video, because that really does help boost it. I would really appreciate it, because this is an independent channel. And you can support the show by dropping a small donation, or by just using my link on Instant Gaming to save yourself money buying new games. It's just a great way to support the show, and also it will save you money. Just use my link for any game that you want on Instant Gaming, because there is some massive deals and you will always save money by using my link. So let's get on with the Dragon's Dogma 2 2025 review. So the first one is that basically Dragon's Dogma 2 added nothing that the first one didn't already have. And that is true to a degree. This is basically a rebirth of the first game, but I do think they've done a lot of stuff better compared to the first one. Just their action in general is just so much more fluid. I haven't played a game that has such good animations, and I didn't think that really mattered, but in a third-person action game, the animations truly make all of the difference. The physics in this game is why I love this so much. The animations and physics feed into each other. Everything reacts how it should. You can chuck, a giant boulder and it will, just satisfyingly crunch the enemy's skull. The weight of your weapons will ragdoll the enemies. So I do understand the complaints saying that it is very similar to the first game. There isn't enough enemy variation, but honestly, I feel like that was completely blown out of proportion. When we see these massive analysis videos on Dragon's Dogma 2, everyone complaining about the enemy variation. To be honest, it doesn't have that much, but it's got enough, and the combat system keeps it feeling fresh. I never got tired of fighting the same enemy types. There is enough variation. People praise Breath of the Wild as being an amazing game, and this has just as much. This game has just as much enemy variation as that game, if not more. the undead, the spectral ghosts that you fight, the different variations on the already enemies that are in the game, like the base lizards and goblins and stuff like that. There is enough variation here. I feel like a lot of people didn't actually play the game at night because it's somehow conveyed to you that you shouldn't play at night, when actually, you know, a whole lot of the fun is playing at nighttime. That's when you encounter new enemies. The combat system just doesn't get old, and the whole fun of this game is playing around with different classes and then leveling up for classes. That's how you balance out difficulty. That's how you make this game fun. I'm not here to tell you how to make this fun, but that's how I made it a lot more fun. For me, was, you know, changing my class up constantly so I'm not over leveled, playing with less pawns, only traveling with 1 or 2, or making sure that they are under leveled. I know that's kind of stupid because a game should be balanced. It shouldn't require you to do that, but it is true that after you reach like level 20, the game becomes super easy, okay? But what I love about this game is the first 20 levels are so amazing. They are so difficult as well. You know, it does feel like you're playing like Elden Ring at times, because the bosses, you know, running out of supplies at nighttime, that's all very tense at the first 20 levels or so, but you can still tweak the experience to make it fun by just changing how you play. And to be honest, I'm still enjoying it even after, you know, level 30 and stuff, because you can tweak the game to make it better. And I do think it is an improvement on the first game. I never could really get into it, but I think the exploration here, the world, is just so much more dynamic compared to the first one. People always say that it wasn't changed that much, but honestly, yes, some things with the combat might be more limiting, but the weight, the impact, and the animations make it way more satisfying, even if it doesn't have as much enemies, even if it doesn't have as much combat moves. All of that stuff, to me, makes it a better experience. Plus the reactivity of the world, the way the enemies, the creatures react is just so much more dynamic. The pawn system is completely overhauled in Dragon's Dogma 2, and it's such a night and day experience. If you go back and play the older Dragon's Dogma game, the pawns are so good in this game. I think they are the best AI companions in any video game. The way that they lead you to quests if they know of a location, the way they tell you if there's, you know, treasure nearby, the way they interact with you, like they can catch you from falling, they can spring you up so you can do, you know, special attacks, and just like the random nature of them is just a lot of fun. And what I love about Dragon's Dogma 2 so much is this game is just hilarious. There's so many times that I'm just laughing so much at the pawns, them doing something stupid. The character creation, holy shit, okay? The character creation is just amazing in this game, but I'll talk about that more in a minute. But I'm just trying to contrast the first game with this game. Yes, it does have its shortcomings. Yes, it's pretty much the same game in some ways, and I understand that was a massive critique of Dragon's Dogma 2, but I honestly feel that everything that they added just makes it a better experience, to me anyway. And especially if you've never played the first game, then you are definitely in for a treat with this game. But if you're coming from the first game, I do understand why it might be a little bit disappointing. But honestly, for quality of life, all of the stuff they've added makes this so much better, if you ask me. Did you know, Master, that mixing a thief with a mage and a warrior would be far more balanced? The exploration just feels so much more rewarding this time around. The fact that there's so many, you know, hidden areas to discover, and the caves are, you know, usually fun to explore. They're not always the same. Yes, there is a lot of reusable, you know, caves. Yes, some of the caves are the same things over and over again, but there are unique ones to discover, and the sense of discovery in Dragon's Dogma 2. That's why I love this game so much. I haven't felt that since something, like I said, an action game like Skyrim, an action RPG game. The RPG mechanics are just so good in this game. It has like a charm. It has a warm blanket charm to it. Like this unique high fantasy that we don't get to see that much in gaming, but it still does have a great blend of dark fantasy. So it's the perfect blend for me, and that's what I really love. The itemization as well is just really great. The way everything has weight and, you know, like time as a mechanic is really important in this game. You know, your items will rot over time if you're, you know, eating meat and stuff like that, or vegetables or fruit or whatever. Quests are on a timer. Everything is alive in this game. I don't understand why people are saying that it isn't reactive. Yes, the guards aren't like super reactive, and like the town itself doesn't react to you, but the world around you, the enemy creatures, and the quest design of this game is very reactive. And to me, I just think this is a fantastic experience. I do not condone games that release in a terrible state, but at least they stuck with it and they fixed it, and that's all you can really ask for in this current day and age of modern day gaming. It's not ideal, but at least it was fixed, and honestly, it's so smooth and fun to play now. If you're looking for an action RPG that doesn't hold your hand, then I don't think you'll find a better game than Dragon's Dogma 2. The only other one I can think of is Elden Ring, but I do understand why people just didn't like this game to a degree. It is quite niche in the fact that you really have to understand that this game doesn't hold your hand. It won't tell you what you're doing. It doesn't really have a proper main story. I mean, it does, but no one really cares about it because it's not that interesting. This is a sandbox game. The traversal of this game is what makes it so special to me. You know, just going from one location to the next and then getting sidetracked. You know, it's that Bethesda open world game design philosophy that is just lost in modern day gaming, where you will see something and then you can get to it. You know, you can do so many cool things in this game, like draw a bunch of enemies towards you over a rickety bridge and then slash down the bridge and they'll all collapse. But then that bridge is actually collapsed and you have to wait in real time in the game world for that bridge to be fixed, and you'll have to plan another way around this destination. The same thing with water. You can't traverse through water, so you have to think about how to get to that location. For some people this is annoying, but to me this world feels so alive just because of how the AI reacts with the enemies. You see different enemy groups fighting each other, you see random parties out there in the wild. It's got that kind of high fantasy anime, JRPG flavor mixed with the Western themes of mythology, and it's just so cool that they've kind of blended these two worlds together, and it's truly a unique fantasy game. That's why I think it's just, amazing. The physics, I'm a sucker for physics in video games. The physics in this game is just batshit insane. I absolutely love it. Climbing on top of enemies, doing this Shadow of the Colossus type combat system mixed with this high action combat, and the fact that you can really spec into your class, make a unique playstyle. I really do think that Dragon's Dogma 2 has so much going for it. You just have to look past some of the elements. Not every game has to do everything correct for it to be a fun game. Yes, the story is lacking, the enemy variation is lacking, and basically the quest design isn't the most interesting, but there's something about this game, just discovering a unique area or a piece of loot that is actually good. That's what makes this game exciting, playing with the different classes. The action combat is just addictive, that you just want to keep playing, fighting these mini bosses and then special unique bosses. This game to me is special, and I haven't really played a game like that in a very long time that really grips me. And another thing that I love about it is the character creator, because the character creator in Dragon's Dogma 2 is probably hands down the best character creator in all video games to exist. And I know it's kind of weird, but I created my main pawn companion as my wife, and basically, that just adds a lot of emotional weight to the adventure. And we've both been enjoying watching, my character on this adventure with her as my, side chick and chucking her off cliffs and stuff like that. Don't worry, guys, there's no wife abuse in this household. But I'm just saying, you can make this truly personal with the character creator, and there's so many unique creations by the community as well that you can literally play with any game character that you want, or make it personal, which is super cool. And I just don't think many games capture that Lord of the Rings experience of, traversal, going across these different lands, having an actual game that doesn't tell you what to do. It's very Dark Soulsy in that way, and that's why I like it. You can really make this a more difficult experience, and when it is difficult, it truly is difficult. And that's why I love Dragon's Dogma 2. It's the journey, the game, and there's not many games that allow you to go on a proper big journey. And if you're the type of gamer like me who is crazy enough to create their own stories in their heads and really just role play into a fantasy game without much hand holding, a good story or interesting characters, usually I think that wouldn't be for me. I want some structure, but But the complete sandbox nature of this game is what truly surprised me, because you can literally just go off into the wild, discover something cool, and the action combat, the mage combat is just so goddamn satisfying. That's why I love Dragon's Dogma 2, and that is my Dragon's Dogma 2 2025 review. Not so much a full in-depth review, I just really wanted to talk about why I love this game, why you should give it a second chance if you haven't played it yet. I do understand the criticisms, but to me, this game is something quite special, and in 2025, I think it's worth giving a second chance because it has changed a lot. And honestly, with mods, if you are playing it on PC, this game can be even better. But I do think Dragon's Dogma 2 in 2025, it is truly something special. Some Arizons like to travel with a bunch of furries. They must be sick in the head. Now, if I could boil it down, I think what makes Dragon's Dogma 2 so special to me is it's kind of like reading a fantasy bedtime story, like when I was a kid. It opens up that imagination. This is a sandbox fantasy game in which you can do whatever the hell you want, pretty much, and tell your own story. It just has that charm to it, and I just haven't felt like that in another game for a very long time. And when you are fighting the bosses, when you go into a dungeon and you do discover a boss, and you know it is a challenging fight, it is just as satisfying as playing something like from Dark Souls, to be honest, for me. And I think that's why this game is so special. It's the journey of the unknown. It's the way that the level design captures your imagination. Yes, some of the locations you explore are actually similar in what they offer, but the fact that it's so built up, you know, this geography, this kind of mountainous landscape, and you can look over into the mountains and decide, I'm going to go there, and you can actually go there. It's one of those games that I just haven't experienced in a very long time, and it really has like a special atmosphere. I think that's what really sells this game, is atmosphere and the sense of exploration and traversal, you know, moving from one area to the next, having it actually feel real and immersive in a fantasy game like this, figuring stuff out yourself, and just the combat system that backs it all up. Attention to detail make this game something special to me, and I understand that it doesn't have the reactivity of an immersive world like when you go and, you know, loot stuff. But the same thing with The Witcher 3, you could just loot everything in that game, but for some reason that always gets a pass because it's a strong narrative. That's what that game does well. But a lot of people look at Dragon's Dogma 2 and think it's a bad game because it fails on story and stuff like that. I think I went in with the right expectations of what this game actually is, not an RPG that's trying to do everything, that's trying to have an interesting world full of characters that are, you know, like lived in and realistic, but the world itself captures much more of that imagination than any other fantasy RPG game that I've played in a very long time. You know, the sense of adventure, the actual palpable sense of adventure, that's what Dragon's Dogma 2 does so well, and that's why it's just such a blast to play. And it's up there for me with Elden Ring and similar games of that nature. And I just don't think you can say that about many games. And I think a lot of people overlook Dragon's Dogma 2 simply because of its issues at the beginning and the fact that they didn't really know what this game truly is. And it doesn't deliver on all the aspects a classical RPG would, and the fact that it takes time and effort to actually get into. It's not one of those games that is easy access, and to me that's why it's special, and not in the way that a good story game immerses you. And that's what surprised me most, is the world itself just felt so much more alive compared to other video games that we get today, and the fact that, you know, like, it pulls you in compared to a lot of games, open world games, that tell you how to explore the world. Dragon's Dogma 2 just lets you, and I think that's what is truly special and why it reminds me of Skyrim in some areas. The nighttime is actually dark, creatures are actually dangerous, things actually have physics and weight to them, and it just has that special atmosphere of like a party-based JRPG feel in a Western setting. And to me, that's so unique, and it just hasn't been done at all. You know, kind of like an anime, but brought to life. And you don't really get to see that much. And I'm not even a big fan of that type of anime, but like when I was younger, I loved that stuff, and it's so cool to see it properly realized. Even if some of the systems are disappointing, you know, like the stealth and all that stuff, you know, everyone's already talked about that, so I'm not going to regurgitate that. It's when you tell someone about this game and they had a completely different experience to you. The attention to detail, like I said, no character is the same. Everyone is like of different height and of walking animations and stuff like that. You know, there's big areas of this game that you can completely miss, and it's one of those games that it's okay with you missing content. And, you know, that tells me it's actually a good quality game, just like Dark Souls was, where it's comfortable with letting you discover things on your own. Sense of discovery to me is just unparalleled to a lot of modern day open world games, where it tells you how to explore and stuff like that. Even though all of the things that you discover aren't always interesting, it still does have unique things to discover, interesting loot, locations, you know, mysterious towns and stuff like that. So go in with an open mind, because I think that's why it's, you know, I think that's why it really grabs my attention, because like I said, it is that type of adventure that is real, because things happen in this world that is just random, and not many games can say that. So it's really, you know, you making up your own story. If you can fill it with your own headcanon and, you know, philosophy of like how the universe works. And, you know, Dragon's Dogma does have an interesting take on the universe of this idea of kind of rebirth and the dragon choosing, you know, the kind of soul, the ruler of this land, and kind of how pawns are second-class citizens and all that kind of stuff, and the morality of using pawns. You could delve into that. So there's ways to make this interesting, but sadly it never actually, you know, gets into that narrative, that, you know, kind of story focus. It's just a world for you to basically do whatever the hell you want with. It's that old school fantasy dungeon crawling experience that you can really just, you know, make what you want out of it. And that's why I love Dragon's Dogma 2. And I hope this Dragon's Dogma 2 2025 review reflects that, because I just want to gush about this game, get more people talking about it.